Good morning, all. Myself Chandra, and today we are going to discuss about the Dataweave or transform message component within Mulesoft and how to leverage the Dataweave transformation within the Mule flows. We are going to discuss and we will see an examples. So basically, Dataweave is a Mule expression language, and we will use this to interpret as well as to access or process the data or the payload. When we say payload means whatever the data or the request that comes to the mail flow, we can access that payload and also the variables that are defined before uh, defining this data view component, or we can even create a new variables using data view. And also we can transform the data from one format to other format within the Mule application as we go through the message processor within the flows. And to understand this data view concepts or the operations, the first thing that we need to know is the data types and what are the different data formats. So we have discussed these things within session 2 and session 3 of this Mulesoft tutorial series. You can go through it so that you will get a better understanding in this data view session. So I'm going to brief the data types like we have data types string, number or integer and Boolean data types. And also we have date to represent the date and a date time formats. And this UU means it will represent the year in 4-digit format and means it will define the month and DD means it is the date format. So likewise, we will mention the dates. And if you want to access only the time format also, you can mention it by using a format operational function. And the different data formats are, we have JSON data format and XML, CSV and text formats. So we are going to see with live examples how we can transform the data from JSON to XML or JSON to CSV format. And also we will see how we convert the JSON to JSON, but with a different field structures or the mapping. And in generally, within this data view, whenever we write the script, use the component, we will have three different sections within the data view. One is the declarative or header section, and within the declarative or header section, we need to define what is the data view version that we are using or we want to run the script. And next directive is within the declarative section, we need to provide the input directive and what is the format of the JSON. So input, we are going to read the payload and it is a JSON format. And we also need to mention what would be the output type or output format that we wanted to generate from the Dataweave script. So that will come under the output directive within the declarative section. And here we need to provide the output data format, how we want to see the output. So it can be application JSON or application CSV or application XML, or whatever the format that we wanted to produce out of the component. And also you can use without application as well, output JSON. So it will produce a JSON format of data from the data view component. And within this declarative section, we can even define variables by using the var keyword and the variable name. And this variable name can accept any values. It can accept object value or a string value. For example, string data. When I am mentioning the pipe symbol, it is just understand that it is an OR operation. I mean to say it is an object, or we can assign the value of string, or we can even assign the number. So for example, 10 is a number. And also we can assign the data in array format as well. Value 1. value to this kind of data we can assign. But one thing is that even though we call this variable or not, once we define this variable, the data will be loaded, and we can even define the functions in Dataweave by using the function keyword and function name, and it can accept the parameters also. So like if we want to perform any filter conditions or any other conditional logic, you can provide the parameters and we can do that particular operations within this function, so that whenever we call this function, then only this function will be executed through the runtime engine, and then it will produce an output. Next section within the Dataweave is separator section. So this separator section will be used to separate the declarative section as well as the script section. So it is a separator. By using 3 horizontal dashes, we can give a separation between the declarative section as well as the script or body section. And the third section in Dataweave is body section. So whatever the logic that we return, it is going to produce an actual output from the statements that we are writing within the body section. So let us see this in practical. So I'm going to Anypoint Studio, and within Anypoint Studio, from Mule palette, search for Dataweave or transform message. So you can search either way. Drag and drop the component. And once we drag drop the component, we can see the sections that we have discussed here. So within the component, we have input section and the output section and also the script. So here, what is the Dataweave script that we wanted to write? And within here, we can see this is a Dataweave version, and also we are trying to produce an output of application Java. And this is a separator section, and we have a body section. And we can even map the values in graphical manner also. If we see this, there is an option, drag and drop the fields to build the transform. We can do this by defining the input payload structure as well as defining the output payload structure. If we know the exact fields and the transformation that are needed out of the component. So we can use the define metadata. And here you can click on add and provide the DW output, for example. So this will be your type ID and create, for example, if you want to provide a simple string output, you can define a simple type string and then create a select so that it is going to produce a string format of output. Otherwise, if we would like to provide any JSON file or a flat file or even the fixed width format, fixed width means it is going to represent the data in positional based manner. I mean, from first character to 10th character, we will receive so on so data. And from 10th character to 12th character, we will receive the gender information. And 13th to 15th character, we will receive the title information. So like this kind of information, we can provide it fixed width format. For example, if we wanted to define a JSON example, we can click on the type JSON, click on the example. And here, whenever we are going to define these examples, we need to make sure that those example files are placed within the project folder structure. So click on explore. And here, if you see this suppliers API, generally we need to place the examples within the source main resources examples. So here we can mention the examples. As of now, we have one suppliers example, right? So we are going to consider that and we will try to produce a simple output out of it. So this is our suppliers input. So out of this suppliers input, we want to create a different structure from it. So instead of producing all the results, I want only the supplier name and supplier number. This is good enough to provide as an example. Copy this and I'm going to cancel it and I will define this example. So within the sources section, source main resources, examples, click on the folder and right click on it, create a file, suppliers dw output.json. Within this JSON, I'm going to copy paste the example. Save this. And from our suppliers API flow, I'm going to define this metadata. DW output, select the example JSON here, type as JSON. And instead of schema, select the example and go to folder structure, source main resources, examples. We have defined one suppliers example. Select that. So whenever we select that example, it is going to display all the fields that are available within that particular example. Click on select. Whenever we do a select and we define this metadata, it is going to display all the fields from that particular examples on the output section. Let me do one thing. I'm going to copy this example and provide this as an input. New file, suppliers dw input JSON and paste your example here. It is not relevant whether we have 10 records or 40 records within this example. We just need the field structure, how many fields are there within that example. So it is fine whether we have 2 or 4 records within this. Now select this Dataweave component and right click on the payload to set the input metadata, set metadata, and I'm going to define a new data type, metadata type. Here we will call it as DW input. Click on create type and select the type as JSON and select an example. From source main resources, select that input JSON. And here we see all the 4 fields that are displayed from the input. Click on select. And now we can see that it is an array of object as the input, and also we want to produce an array of objects as the output. For example, if we want to map the supplier number to the output supplier number, drag and drop it. And supplier name, we want to map to the supplier name. So in this way, we can use the drag and drop mechanism by using the Dataweave IntelliSense. So we call this as a data sense also. Whenever we place this component, it will automatically identify the kind of payload and the fields that will be coming as an input to this particular component. In this way, we can easily identify and transform the records. And if we observe this, since we have provided an example as JSON, it automatically transforms the output section also from Java to JSON. And let us click on preview. It is going to take some time. Let's wait. Now, if we observe, it has produced an output in our required format only with the 2 fields. And this is a sample. Because of the sample, we are getting this data. You can even observe that. If you are going to update this information, supplier number S101. So this data will reflect in the output. And let us see the different options that we have in this previews and section. I'm going to disable the preview section. Now, if you see here, you can even check this display in different modes. Like if you want to see only the input and output with the descriptive script section, you can click on this view. Source, input or source. We will call the input as source also for this component. So this way we can map and transform the data within the database. And now we will see the different operations that we can do within the database. And for this, we are going to make use of the online database playground, which is provided by the Mulesoft. So I'm going to the browser, and within the browser, search for Database Playground and click on this link. You will be redirected to the playground. Accept and continue. And by default, this Mulesoft is going to provide a tutorial also. Like if you want to learn this Database functions and other operations, you can go through this tutorial also, so that you can get a better understanding of the database. And we are going to discuss some of these operations in the session. And we are mainly discussing the commonly used operators in the organization or the projects. So this database playground also is similar to the Anypoint Studio database. We will have the input and the script section and the output. And here we have the payload. Click on that payload. So you will get what is the payload that is written for the input section and what kind of data format it is. So it is a JSON payload with one field message and the value is hello world. So to access this message within the database script section, we need to write a script or statement. So to produce the payload as it is, we need to provide the payload keyword within the body section of the database script. So here, if you see, the payload is printed as it is on the output. Now, if you want to access a single value from the input of the payload, you can use the dot selector and provide the field or key name, so that it is going to access that key name and produce the output. Here, if you see, it is produced a string output of hello world. So this way we can use a single selector. And we will see these examples with our suppliers data. I'm going to get the suppliers information. I will provide these examples in the description. You can make use of it. Now, once we replace the input section with our suppliers information, we are now not seeing the message value in the output because this payload does not having any message field within the input section and it was unable to read that value and produce an output. So to check the null conditions or sometimes what will happen in real-time scenarios, we might need to check whether the field is existed or not. And then we want to perform some operations if conditions or produce an yeah, other value by checking the condition. In that scenario, we can check the field existence. So to check the field existence, we need to use question tag for that particular field. So if you see, this is the payload, and within the payload, we are trying to access the message key, and we are checking the existence of the message key within the payload. And it is producing a result of false, which means that field was not available within the payload, or it can be anything within that particular section where we are trying to access it from the particular payload. And let me try to remove this message and we will see the actual output of the suppliers. Let us try to understand how to access the array data in the data view section. So from the payload, if you want to access the first object, then you need to provide a square brackets and provide the index. So array always starts with 0 index. So to access the first record within these records of suppliers, you need to provide an index of 0. And if you want to access particular field from that record, you need to provide field name. I want to check whether that first supplier is active or not. So that I need to provide a payload of 0, that means first record, and the field name is active, yes. Now we will try to check the existence of this key. We know that this isActive is available within the first record, and this way we can see the result of the existence as true. And now I'm going to remove this field from second record, and I will access this record by using payload of 1. That means it will produce the second record, and from the second record I'm going to check the isActive field is available or not. And if we see the result is false, that means that particular field is not available within this record. And now we will check other condition. Now we have isActive in the first record, but let us try to remove the value and keep the value as empty string. And whenever we keep the value as empty string, it is going to provide a value empty string on. But to check the existence and also the particular value, whether the value is available or not. If we check the existence, since the key is available, it is going to produce a true operation. But if we check for the value is not equal to empty, then it will provide a false condition because that value is empty and it is not matching the condition. Not equal to active, value is not empty, then only we want to perform some operation. Then you can check for the non-equality operation. If I want to produce some condition, if this is not equal to not available, then I want to provide invalid, else I want to provide valid as a result. So in this case, I'm going to produce an if condition. This we call it as if else condition. So within if else condition, I'm trying to access the array of record, first record and isActive, and I'm checking the value is active, is empty or not. And then if it is empty, I'm going to produce invalid, otherwise valid. And we can also provide another condition within this if else condition. So if else if, that means we are going to provide multiple conditions here. Now we have checked this is active, and after that I want to check another value. Instead of is active, I want to check the address. Address is not equal to empty, then valid address. Sorry, here the condition is reverse. If it is not empty, then valid, otherwise invalid. I am going to change the conditions. If the value is equal to empty, then I want to print that value as invalid status. And I'm going to check the address value. If it is empty, then I want to print the statement as invalid address. And after that, I want to confirm if both values are available, then I want to print the value as valid. So what we are going to do, we are checking the condition equal to empty and providing the result. So in this scenario, the is active key is available, but the value is empty. So it is invalid status. Let us try to provide a value. So the first condition is false because is active is having some value and it is not equal to empty. And it is going to move to next condition and it will check for the address of the first record. And this address also is having some value Mumbai and it is not equal to empty. And that's why this will not be produced as a result and it will move to the next condition. And this way we can write if else conditions and multiple else if conditions also within the database. Now let me try to see this value as null. Now we have produced, we are giving the input value of the first record is active as null, and it is still trying to produce a valid as a result, which is not correct. So to check for that condition, we need to also add not null conditions and equal to null. Here we want to produce our condition here. Whether this is equal to empty or null, then it is invalid status. In same way, we need to provide this in the other if else condition. Here check for address. Now it is providing invalid states because null is matching the condition. Now try to produce an output with a different value. Here I'm going to provide a value and it is saying valid. Whenever we remove this value from the address, it is going to provide an invalid address. In this way, we can check multiple conditions in a single if else condition. And we can also check for this condition whether that value is available or not using a single condition. So I'm going to remove this and instead of checking for multiple values, I'm going to check for payload of 0 dot address is blank. So whenever we perform this is blank operation, it will check for both the conditions like whether this is empty or null. Then it is going to produce a invalid address because the value is null. Let us try to remove this key itself. So whenever we remove the key, then also it will provide a correct result by checking this condition is blank condition and it will provide an invalid address. This is very important and that's why I'm elaborating the scenarios. Now let us try to add some empty condition. If the value is empty also, we are getting the correct response invalid address because the address is empty string. Let us try to add value. Whenever we add the value in the address section of the input first record, then we got the valid as the response. In this way, we check for the existence of the key as well as existence of the value by checking empty string condition as well as null condition. And we can perform both the things by using is blank as well. And if there is an array of records and if we want to check whether the array or object is empty or not, then you can use instead of is blank, you can check for is empty condition. For example, there is a second record. So within the second record, I want to check from the second record, I want to check. So in the input section, we have given the input of second record as an empty object. And to check that existence of the object within the array, we can check payload of 1, but instead of using is blank, use is empty. So whenever we use is empty, it will provide the correct value. Invalid address object. So in this way, we can check for the existence of the object or array. It will work on the entire field. Instead of working on single field, it will work on the entire value. So it will also work on single field as well. So isEmpty will be used to check the object or array or particular field value. Now let us move to other operations. We have seen a single selector and we will see the multi-value selector. I am going to remove this condition. We have payload, and from the payload, we want to access all the supplier names. So to access the supplier names, we can use the payload dot supplier name, or you can also mention dot after dot, you can mention the star. So it is going to select multi-values. And we can see the difference once we get the actual scenario for that multi-value selector. And range selector can be done by using two operator. So for example, from this payload, we want the records from first record to fourth record. In that case, we can mention 1 to 4. Sorry, index will end with 3. So 1 to 3. It is going to produce 2, 3, and fourth records information in the output. And whenever the limit is going to be exceeded, then we will get an incorrect result. To make sure that we are giving a correct boundary, you can provide a variable. So variable, I am going to check supplier size equal to, what is the size that we want to check? Size of payload. So we are defining a variable, and that variable we will use it here. -1. So the index will be always -1. So because of that, we need to provide the supplier size is 4 records and -1. And here, if you want to change this value, you can change it. In this way, we can use the range selector by using the keyword to. And array index also, we have seen it. So to check the particular record, we need to provide the index value directly. In this way, we can access that particular object from the, it can be an object or it can be even a string from the array of string. So we are going to select the particular index position record. And from the suppliers, we will define the different operations. So we are saying that filter. So to use filter, we need to have an operation on the array of records of input. Since our input is an array, and to produce an output only the active suppliers list, we can create a filter condition. So we want to filter the input array of suppliers and add a condition active equal to yes. So here we are seeing only two records. For the first record, let as S instead of Y, add the S condition. Add the S as an input. Now you can see the multiple suppliers coming as output by providing the filter condition is active. Yes. And from this, let us try to use another operators also. This is a filter. Okay. Now use the order. So we have a payload. Now we have the input payload, and this input payload is having supplier numbers, right? Now we want to order it by using some field. Then we can do that by order by keyword. So payload order by, and within this order by, it will accept the item and index. Item means that particular record. So item dot is active. So whenever we provide this is active, so it is going to order the records by using is active, and then it will provide the result. Now, if we want to order this result in reverse order, then we can do that by using -1 to 0. So whenever we provide that -1 to 0, the order will be reversed. Okay. And this order can be done in different manner also without providing the named functions. So whenever we use these kind of things, parameter based operations, then we call it as named things. If you want to provide these conditions without the name, you can do that by using lambda functions. So by default, this payload can be, let me check. Yeah, by default, this payload and the function, if we do not define any parameters, then we can use it by using the lambda functions. So in generally, lambda functions are like, the dollar will represent the array of records. For example, we have array of records. So dollar will represent that particular record, and double dollar will represent the index. And if we have three parameters, dollar will represent payload, double dollar will represent the key, and triple dollar will represent index. Since we have only two parameters for this order by, we can have the order by dollar means that particular record dot is active, and it is going to order the records by using is active, and then we are reversing the order. If we remove that, it is going to provide a result. The first n will come in the first in the strings. That's why it is going to order the records by using n, and then it will have the information in the series. This is order by, and let us try to use another operation. We will use map. Okay. Map will be used on array of records. Okay. I am going to mention map. We know that it will work on array of records. So payload is an array of records. To use the map operator, click on space and provide map. So this map operator also accept parameters, or without parameters also we can perform the operation. So this is the syntax to produce a map operator results. We need to provide the map operator and then dash and right angular, and then within this we need to define the keys and values. So what I am going to do, we have an input supplier number, supplier name, active, and address. Instead of these, I want to return the output for only supplier number in different structure. So supplier number field to be mapped to supplier num and supplier name to be supplier subname, and then active should come as YRN instead of yes or no. I want the value as YRN, and the address information I want it under the address object line 1. So this is our criteria requirement. So how can we achieve this? By using map operator. Since we want to loop through each of the record and transform each key and map the value, we need to use map operator. And here we need to provide the mappings. So what is the name? Subnum and supplier number. I want to read it from the input record. So how can we access the input record? By using lambda functions dollar. So this dollar will represent the particular record, single record. So I'm going to access the sub number and the subname dollar dot supplier name and then active. Instead of is active, I want the output as active, and I'm going to provide is active. If we see this E active is coming as it is, yes or no. Instead of that, I want to provide the result in different values. So if is active equal to yes, then I want the value as y. Else, I want the value as n. So in this way, we can use the if else condition. And next one is this address wanted under the address object again. So we have a object. Under the object, I want to define one more object. Line 1, and in line 1 I want the address field. So we have an output. This is the one record information. First supplier name 1 Tata Group, and then active, and also the address is under the addr object under line 1. This way we can transform the data from one format to other format with a different field structure. So we are working on the records information, and we are transforming each record into a different field structure, and hence we need to use the map operator. So this is named for this is the lambda functions by default if we do not provide any parameters. Even we can use the named parameters for the map operation also. Map name, I am going to give the key name as map name, and then I'm going to copy paste it. Instead of map, I want to provide the record name here. So the input is suppliers. So instead of suppliers, I want to work on a single field, a single record, right? So I am mentioning supplier. So each record will be a supplier, and I want index of supplier. So let me change the mapping in map name. Instead of dollar, we need to use this first parameter. So this first parameter will represent the single record payload. So supplier dot supplier number, and then supplier dot supplier name, supplier dot is active. And this way we can produce the same result using named parameters also. And let us understand this index of supplier. For example, I want to know the position of this particular record. So to know the position of the record, we can use the index of supplier. In map name, if we see the result, we have a position 0, 1, 2, 3. That means the record of this position in the array is 0th index. This way we can know the position by using the keyword index of supplier. The second parameter denotes that this is index. And how can we achieve this using the lambda functions? Means we have a double dollar. So instead of position, I am naming it as index in the normal lambda functions values. So let us see. The output index is 0, 1, 2, 3. And here in mapper name, we have provided the key as position, and we can see the same values for each record. So the result will not be impacted either by using the named functions or lambda functions. But it is always better and suggestible that we use the named function so that we can even use this or access this particular parent level record within the child record. If we have multiple array of arrays or nested arrays information, then in the child iteration of map operation, we can access the parent level record if we provide the named operations or parameter based operations. Yeah, this is about the map operator. Yeah. Let us see one more operation. I'm going to comment every operation one by one because we won't be able to see the result uh, immediately. We need to scroll down and see. Now I want to check group by group payload. So we have suppliers array of records, right? So this group by also will work on the array of records. So for example, we have a list of suppliers, and this list of suppliers I want to group based on the active suppliers, or if it is the inactive suppliers, I want to know that list. So we can use the group by keyword or operation in Dataweave payload group by. So I am not giving any named parameters here. Group by dollar. So on which parameter based we wanted to group the information is active. So whenever we do this operation, it is going to provide a result with the key and values. So here, if you see this, group is providing a result of object, and this object is containing the keys of that particular operation where we are performing the group by. So here group by is active. That means yes, records will be grouped as one array, and then no active suppliers will be grouped as another record, another array. This way we can use the group by, and we can also use the group by on multiple conditions as well. For example, we can provide this plus plus dollar dot address. For this, I'm going to use the parentheses. And if we see this key is based on this two parameters, is active and the address. We can even provide this grouping in more better way by adding the underscore in between these two. So it is going to provide a result, yes, underscore Mumbai. That means this active suppliers in Mumbai are one record and active suppliers in Pune are one. Let us try to change the input. So this is the first record, and for third record, I want to change the address as Mumbai instead of Hyderabad. So if we see this, the group by result is going to be changed. In yes Mumbai, I mean Mumbai active suppliers are two now. So let us do it more readable manner. I want to name address first and then active so that we know Mumbai and then active suppliers. So Mumbai S. In this way, we can use the group by function even for multiple field values. So let us try to achieve this with the named parameters. Click on Control space so that you will get the syntax as well. So here we have this item. Item is the record here, and index will be the particular index position. And I want to group this by using item.address and then item.isActive. So the result will be same. Only the difference is that here we are using the lambda function without parameters, and here we are using the parameter based operation. This is about the group by. Now we have seen this group, we have this Mumbai S and also the two records information. For example, even we wanted to know that how many records are there for each group. How can we achieve that? I mean, yeah, we have the information. Active suppliers in Mumbai location are 2, but we need to go to the output and check, or we have to count it manually. Instead of that, we can even achieve that by using Dataweave operation. Use this by using the operation. I'm going to use group. Use the another operation by using the map object. So by using the map object, we can categorize the active suppliers information, and we can count the information as well. Even if you want to know the average, and if there are multiple list of employees and you want to know the average of salary for each department and you want to increment it. So all this information can be done by using a map object. So map object I am mentioning, and map object will accept the input of object and it will provide the output. So I'm going to comment this named section of group by, and we will see the result. So here we have payload. We see that payload is an array, and by default it is going to use the map operator. And let me try to use the group by. So group by, we already have the function or already defined a operation. So we are grouping this by using address and active suppliers, and this is going to produce an object information like how many suppliers are there within this particular location and active. Now we wanted to count these records and only list these suppliers within the output. So we can achieve that by using map object. Map object. So map object will accept 3 parameters. One is value. Value means the payload or the record, and key. Key means that particular key of the object, and then index, that particular position of the array or object, whether it is a 0th index or first index of the result. And now let us try to produce an output in object format. So this map object, I want to create a value, parent, and from the parent, let me check. This is supplier. So here, define the key. That means status. I want to know the status. Provide the value as key. So whenever we provide the value as key, address underscore status. So address underscore status is the key. That means that whatever the group that we have done, it is going to become as a key to this map object. And that information we can see here. And after that, we want to know the number of suppliers. Count, for example. For count of the payload or record, we can use size of, and size of which thing we need to check. Since the record information will be treated from the value. We need to provide the value of size. So here size of value means the record. We can see this value, and let me display that value also. Suppliers value. If we see here, this is the suppliers and there are two records, and hence we need to use the size of that particular value. And we will try to understand the position also here, position. And for position, we can use the index since it is a named one. So this position is 0th index of that particular result. And we can see that output. Now we have produced a suppliers information and the count of suppliers that are active and particular location, and also we have the suppliers list. Instead of having all the information in the suppliers, you can even access that only supplier names you wanted to add. So value dot supplier name. So in this way, that suppliers information will be added as array of records in the output. So this is about map object, and let me see here we have the supplier information, but this map object information is coming as object. So instead of object, or if we want to have all this information, this suppliers information, this entire information as array, we need to provide that supplier information as array. So let us try to achieve it. Whenever we want to use this multi-value select, since there are multiple suppliers information within this map object result, we need to provide dot star and then supplier. Then it is going to provide an output in the array format, and it will display all the suppliers information with the required details, like what is the status, address status, and the number of suppliers count, and who are the suppliers, and what is the position of that result. All this information we can see here. And this is map object, which is working on group by function. That means we have this payload input suppliers payload, and that suppliers payload was first grouped by using the address and active status or not, and then we are working on those result, which is a object result. On that object result, we are trying to know who are the suppliers that are active for that particular address. That is the use case. Group the suppliers based on location and status, active or not, and count the suppliers based on location and status. Count the suppliers, comma, list the suppliers. This is another use case. Now we will try to achieve this without the parameters by using lambda functions. I'm going to copy paste it and commenting this section. Now instead of giving the parameters, remove these parameters, and in 3 parameter based functions or operations, we need to provide the key as $, and the value should be $. Value means it is the record, or a value you can even mention it as the particular operation name or record name. Index means $. So this way also we can achieve this operation or requirement. So now name, I mentioned name. And we have seen this, we are using this payload group by multiple times, right? So you can provide that as a function also whenever you wanted to perform this operation multiple times or more than once. Better you use this as a function or a variables and declared within the declarative section. And that way, instead of writing the code again and again, we can reuse that. For example, function group suppliers, and I want to provide the input supplier, and then I'm providing the details. So here instead of payload, we need to provide the input name suppliers. If you are not providing any input name, you need to provide on which record you want to provide the group by. So you can provide the payload directly. Since we are providing the name within the parameters or a function, we need to provide that particular name suppliers. So these suppliers we are using here, and we are grouping by using this address and active status. So here we can directly call that function group suppliers, and we are going to provide the input. So this input, this since it is a input or parameter based function, we need to provide the data. So we are passing the payload, and from that it is going to provide a result of group suppliers. Let me call this as a separate function group supply, and I'm going to call that particular function here. And if we see here, it is grouped the suppliers based on the location and status. And in the map object, we are achieving the result, the number of suppliers and the status. What is the status and location? This is about group by. And this group by is providing an object result, and it will be worked on the object. And now we have one more operation, pluck operation. By using pluck operation, it is going to provide a result as an array format, and it will accept the object input. So I'm going to command this map object pluck. We will use group suppliers. So from the group suppliers, you want to list down the location and status details. So in that case, you want to provide an output. So use the pluck operation, and from pluck, what is the information that you wanted to gather? We know that $$ will represent the key. So use key $$ so that you will get all the information on location and status details. This way you can use the pluck operation, and it is providing an array of records. And you can even pluck the objects. For example, let me use a different example. Pluck, we have a object. Object means, let us try to understand this. Group, we have payload, and from payload I am considering only first example, so that it is a object. From this object, I want to perform some operation, like the supplier number is there, supplier name, active, address is there, right? And for this information, I want to append something. And I can do that by using pluck operation. Pluck, I want to operate on the object and provide an array of records. So pluck, and then dollar dot new value added. So whenever you want to perform the operation on each of the object or each of the field and want to produce an output as array, then you can use the pluck operation on the object information, and then you can perform the you can perform the operation. So here what we are doing, we are accessing the value of the each field in the object and trying to perform operation like new value added. And you can even do it on conditional basis also, or however we need it. But the final outcome of the pluck will be output as an array. And let us see other examples, like we have upper and lower. So here we have the information. I'm naming this upper. Let me say this upper operation. We have payload, and within the payload, we have list of suppliers. So this list of suppliers, supplier name is there. So this list of suppliers, I want to name it as upper. How can we do that? By using map dollar. So here, instead of map dollar, I'm going to use upper of dollar. That means each field I'm going to convert into the uppercase. So that means it is going to provide all the suppliers information, and it will come as a array. And on the array of suppliers, I'm going to use a map operation. And within this map operation, I'm using to convert this list of suppliers into uppercase suppliers. This way we can use upper or even lower operation, whatever the operation that we wanted to perform. And you can even use this on a single string as well. Since we are in this case, we are converting the list of suppliers into array, and on each supplier, we are performing the operation. For example, there is a case, we have a value in lower, but you wanted to convert this into upper. How can we do this? We can use the upper function, and we can provide that value inside it, so that this will be a new uppercase value. And another one is that we have replace. So let me see, upper and lower is completed, split by and join. Yeah, we'll see this. We have this in uppercase, but the value is divided with spaces. Let me check this example. I'm going to use the existing example, payload dot suppliers. Okay, we have suppliers information, and this suppliers information is with a space, or if you have any commas or special characters, and you wanted to perform a split. You want to split this supplier if there is a space. So you can do that by using split by dollar. Since this suppliers is an array of records, you cannot directly use the split by function. Split by function will work only on the strings. To make it work, use map operator, and here you need to mention the value. Payload or supplier name, map dollar. Let me check. Yeah, we have this information. Split by space. So whenever we mention this split by space means it is going to provide an array of arrays, because each of the supplier information will be divided into the group of characters or group of words wherever there is a space. So if you see this Tata Group is splitted into two words where there is a space. For example, I am removing the space. Then that particular word will come as a single string and array of strings. Whenever we use split by, that is going to split the information into group of characters or group of words, and it will provide an array of information. And since it is a array that we know, fine. But instead of having this information as multiple records of arrays, so this, if we observe this, it is having array of arrays, multiple information. Instead of this, I want to collect the information as a single array. Then we can use a flatten function. For example, on this, I want to use flatten. That means I am going to add flatten and copy this entire operation into this flatten. So it is going to provide the input and divide the records into a. So in this, the first operation has divided the supplies information into multiple words with the space by using space. Wherever there is space, it has divided. And that information we are collecting into a single array of records by using the flatten function or flatten operation. And let us try is blank isn't is empty is completed. Yeah. Let us use the joinBy. For example, join. We have a join series of words. So this is a, sorry, join will work on the records of array. So we have payload dot isActive. So we know that isActive is an array of records. And this array of records, instead of having it directly, I want to use joinBy. So joinBy, and I want to use a separation of comma for each of the values. So this is going to produce an string output, and it will join the list of or array of values using comma separated thing. So this way we can use join by and split by. And let us use one more operation. Replace is fine. Distinct by. Distinct. So we have payload and isActive. So isActive means we wanted to know the different statuses available within this suppliers information. And for that purpose, we are accessing the values from payload.isActive. We can see that it is having yes, 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 and no. That means we have three values as yes and one value is no. We know that this yes and values, yes and no values, we wanted to give to the provider or other service. In that case, instead of having duplicate values, we need to provide unique values. So for that purpose, we need to use distinct by. So in distinct by, use the value item on which column we wanted to use this distinct means on the same field on the payload itself. That means on these values. So it is going to provide a array of records with the unique value. This is the distinct. And let us use the replace. Using payload dot supplier number. Okay. So we have supplier numbers records, and on each supplier, I want to check and transform the data into different structure, and also here supplier num. I want to use this dot dot supplier number. So the supplier number is available, but instead of having the supplier number as sub1 on the target system, for example, we want to send this information in a different format, but we want to apply some condition. Wherever we see this sub, instead of sub, I want to rename it as a target system value. Like instead of supplier, I want it as a vendor. So I am going to use replace and word, and we need to provide a value vendor. So whenever we see this information sub, it is going to replace the sub with vendor. And we can see vendor 1, 2, 3, 4. This kind of transformations we can use by using replace function and the operations. And this replace will also work for the regular expressions as well. For example, instead of a direct word, instead of word here, like this, you can mention the values. So this is a word replacement. Instead of word replacement, if you want to perform any character by character transformation, or if you want to use multiple characters, so you have S and U. So for each S, it is going to use the to replace with vendor, and you can see that vendor P. That means for S and U, it is replacing the value with vendor and vendor. And like this, you can use the regular expressions also in this replace function. And I'm going to use one more operation. I'm going to provide supplier name and dollar dot supplier name. Here we have seen this, there is a Tata Group, Saankhya, or whatever the information is available. So I wanted to know whether this particular field is containing some information or not. I wanted to check that whether it has or not. For that, you can use contains operation, contains and brain. Let me use brain in capital word. So that means it is going to check for that particular value, and if it has the value, then it is going to return true. And based on that, you can perform some other additional operations. So if the value is true, if it has a contains, if it has that particular word or even the letter, then you can perform additional transformations. So that is about contains operation. And let me tell you one more thing. As of now, we have not accessed any unavailable keys, right? Now I want to access the line 2 information. Okay. And in address 2 from input, I am going to get this information from address 2. I'm going to add address 2 for some records. Andheri. Okay. For the first record only, this information is available. So whenever this information is available, then only I want to display the field. Otherwise, I wanted to hide this field. That can be done by using the operation if. We have already checked that how to check for the is empty or not. Is how to check for the value, if it is containing the value or not. So we can check is blank or is empty. Is blank will work on the strings and fields. So is blank dollar dot address to. If this value is presented, then only display this field. So yeah, if we observe, we are displaying the line 2 information in reverse way. So to achieve our target, we have to use the negative condition. That means apply the not. So you can use not or exclamatory mark so that it will reverse the condition. So whenever this address 2 is empty, means it is going to provide true, and if it is not true, then only display this information. That means if address 2 is not blank, then display the line 2 information. We can see that in the output. This way you can use that. And also sometimes instead of displaying this information, or if there are multiple fields and you wanted to hide that all the null values, even if there is an array. For example, there is a customers for this supplier. Okay, customers is empty. For example, I am adding the empty as list of suppliers. So for this, we can see that the information is empty. I'm going to add the suppliers information, sorry, customers information as customer 1, customer 2. If we observe that dollar dot customers, and if we see that we have customers only for few records. So instead of applying the is condition and blank condition here, you can even apply this condition in the declarative section also. Use a keyword skip null on equal to everywhere. So this is going to filter all the null values and it will remove displaying it from the output so that it will be not sent to the next message processor. This way we can achieve the same kind of a criteria using skip null on operation. And this read and read URL or something, whenever you have some information in some or certain format and you wanted to read that information, then you can use this. So I'm going to provide this read. So read, and you can mention the data format, data comma format, what kind of format it is. I'm going to mention application JSON. Provide a string data here. So this string data is a color information. Color is blue, but we are mentioning it is a string data. And that color information, we need to provide what kind of data it is, application JSON. So this string will be readed as application JSON and provide the result. For example, if we provide this as application XML, which is wrong because this is a JSON format in the string or in the quotes. But here you are mentioning the data format is a which is not suitable. So we need to make sure that we are providing the correct information. And let us try to replace this example. Color. So this is a XML data and we wanted to produce a JSON for that. So we need to mention what kind of data it is, exception reading character. Let me check this. So we need to remove that double quotes since it is a single string format. Because in JSON, we need to provide key and values in double quotes. So we have to use out quotes as a single quotes. And in XML format, we don't know. We don't have to use this double quotes. If there is any other string, again, attributes information, for example, attribute color code equal to 1, 2. And for this information, we need to use that. And here we have application XML, and this application XML is providing the JSON result. And now I wanted to use the application XML only. And you can observe that it is able to read that operation as application XML and able to convert that into the proper XML or JSON format. And read URL also is same, but instead of providing the direct uh, text value or string value, we need to provide a class path, which is a source main resources stored location of that particular data file. Okay. And let me see other operations. We have discussed contents, and we have now and scan, and also trim is left. Let us discuss the trim operation. I'm going to comment this trim operation, and I'm going to use payload.supplierName of the first record. Okay. I am not using all the information. We have Tata Group information. And after the Tata Group, there are spaces in some scenarios. Maybe the source system is sending some spaces, maybe where it was entered. So instead of sending this same information to the target system, we might need to trim the data. I mean, we need to remove the. So sometimes we need to remove the spaces which are at the uh, starting of the field or ending of the field. So in that case, we need to use the trim operation, and so that it will remove the extra spaces at the start or end of the word. If there is a double space or triple space within that word, then it will not be useful to remove those characters. So we need to use a special a regular expression, and then we have to perform the operation. And let me check the scan operation payload dot supplier name. And here, yeah, let me check to add email. So Tata 123 at gmail.com. We know that it is not a valid one because it is having two at the rates, and we need to perform some validation. How many at the rates can be it and how many at the rates it can have within the email, and it cannot have more than one at the rate. And we need to define that, and we have to check that. So for that, we can use scan operation. Scan, provide the first parameter, which parameter you want to check, and then provide the value for which keyword you want to search for. Scan at the rate. It is having, okay, instead of supply name, I need to provide email. So if you see this, it is having number of records as 1. So it is going to provide the result of array and how many times it is uh, occurred. And we can use a size of operation. So how many times this particular record was occurred. It is going to provide the 2. So 2 times this at the rate was included in the email, which is a wrong one, and you can throw that error. Now let us discuss about the now operation. Let us discuss about the now. I am going to add a date as a key, and then I'm adding now parameter operation. So in now operation, this is going to provide the date time format with the time zone, and here we can see this 24-hour formats. And we can even convert this now, or now is going to produce the current date time for the zone. And you can mention or change the time zone by using this keyword. So use the double angular brackets and Asian Calcutta. Let me check. So Asia Calcutta is the time zone, and we can see that the time is matching with our current time. So in this way, we can even convert that time into a particular time zone format also. And let me have another example. So instead of this, I want to display only date. So you can use as function and then display the date so that it is going to provide only that particular date instead of displaying all the time and time zone. And if you want to print only the year, you can use another condition format, and here you need to mention the year. So it is going to provide the value. And if you have another format, YY. So by default, it is going to display the format in hyphen format. And if you want to change the format, you can even do that by using the format condition. I mean, it is all dependent how you want to transform the data and how you want to send the information to the target systems. So this is about the date. And for example, if you want the time or if you want the local time, all that information you can do by using as date functions as time. So it is going to produce only that particular time information. Likewise, you can do this multiple operations. And in date, there are so many operations like period operations. So period means if you want to add 1 year to the current time zone, so that you can do that by using period operation. Date one now as date. So this is a 2022 12/8, and you want to add one more period 1 year. So it is going to add 1 year to the current date. In this way, you can achieve adding the year or subtracting the year, or you can also do the dates or days, number of days you can do. All this information can be done by using the period format. You can check that in Dataweave tutorial in detail, how you can access this information. And let us understand one more information, like we have a salary. So we know that salary is a Boolean, salary is a floating type. That means it can be in digits as well. And this information we want to send only the last 2 digits after the decimal. And that can be done by using the format operation. First, we need to convert this into the string, and we need to provide the format. In this way, you can mention and you can make sure that you are going to print the values only up to 2 decimals. Okay. If you have the value which is greater than 5, that is going to be considered as 28 here. If, for example, if we are going to convert this to 271, that means the value of the last 2 digits after decimal will be 27. It is a normal arithmetic operations. So in this way, you can achieve all the operations that are needed and required within the transformations and the organizational activities to send the information from source system to target systems. Yeah, I'm just going through if we have anything missed. Yeah, we have one more important thing, UUID. So UUID is kind of generating the correlation ID or random number, which will be used to send and used by the target systems. Okay, UUID. So this ID will provide a information that will be a random number. It is like a correlation ID. If you want to generate a new correlation ID and want to communicate that to the target systems, and you are going to get some information or reply on that particular correlation ID, and you can make that communication, and you can store this information by using UID generation. This is about the data view, and there are so many functions that are still available, and you can use all of them if it is necessary, and you can go through the tutorial. And yeah, this is about the data view. Please like, share, and subscribe.